This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half. Well, it is great to be here with Kim O'Hara today. I'm so excited that we get to do this interview on how to write a book. I mean, what a great person to have, especially this time of year, as this is going to air in January, and it's a great time of year to even be thinking about this. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her in just a moment. I just want to remind everyone who's tuned in is that we do have our Hero Mountain Summit. You want to be able to look at heromountainsummit.com. It's a 5-month program. I have put that together because a lot of people start and they have a hard time continuing. And if you're going to do this, you need to commit to those 5 months because you will grow. You will move ahead. It's an accountability. You get to go in the back end of my programs and what I do. I'm kind of a techie in many ways, but also I know how to get stuff done. I know how to reinvent. I've had to do that a lot with the gig economy, and you get stuff every single month too with a professional development webinar. So, but you can only sign up until the end of this month, end of January, and then it goes from February to June, and then you won't get that opportunity again until the second half of the year. So now is the time. So make sure you do that. So anyway. So, Kim, here we are. Thank you for joining me. This is great.
It's so great. It's so great. It's so great to be here and see you again. We have some history. So it's
yes, nice. We sure do. Just great. So anyway, and you have quite the bio, which I love to highlight a little bit, but I really like to highlight on the stuff that you're doing right now. But you're a book coach to bestsellers, and you know how to get to the root of the story. And that's the big deal about what you do. You talk about a lot about story, and you've worked with bestsellers and the process actually of writing a book. And I know this because I've written several books. I know how hard it is, especially the first time. Oh my goodness, first time writers, it is just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And it's kind of daunting without that help. And you've got just plenty of credits that people can look you up, and we'll talk about where they can find you outside afterwards. But you've also been a movie producer and a screenwriter. Now that should help you a lot in how to write a book, doesn't it?
Right. You can definitely talk characters, that's for sure, even if the character's you.
Yes. Yeah. It's I think that sort of background really makes your sort of expertise even uniqueness is, we always look, I help people find their uniqueness basically. And that gives you really a unique edge of that character development, because actors spend a lot of time trying to figure out what that character is. And if you're coming as a screenwriter as well as a producer, that's a big part of that job. Definitely.
Yeah, you're looking for the essence of, even if it's a memoir or like a self-help book or even in a business book, you're looking for the essence of what the author's character is. Like, what's your unique voice? Like, how are you going to say it differently than maybe 5 other people that have written books on that particular subject are going to say it? And those are the characters in movies that stand out. Like, they're these unique individuals.
Yes. That's it's really interesting how that you're drawn to those characters, and you identify. You want to be able to in some way identify whether they're good or bad.
Right. There's always the good villain. Right. The well-drawn villain.
Well, I've got some questions, and we're kind of seeing where a lot of this goes today. But where does somebody begin in? How do they know what they want to write about and that's going to hit the mark with their readers? Where do you even start?
It's interesting. People will come to me and say, which is why I named my podcast, You Should Write a Book About That. That's often what's said to them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they have real clarity. I'm going to write about divorce, or I'm going to write about an eating disorder, or I'm going to write about, building a business as a single parent, right? But some people come to me and they actually don't know why people keep telling them they should write a book. Like they're almost like perplexed, but they feel like if they don't do something about it, then they're missing the boat.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of exploration, no matter where the writer's at, with the why of the book and really what those incidents are in their life that are the catalysts to get them to where they are. It's hard to connect your own dots, but if you have a coach who is experienced with narrative and threading, putting the pieces together, they have ahas fairly quickly within, the early parts of the process.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And as your background, because you've really, brought people along, your experience as movie producer and screenwriter. This is a little rabbit trail here, but you're not an editor. You're helping people, push ahead, but you can do editing too.
Right.
So, you can do all of that, but what is your big strength that you can add as far as a book writer and why they should come to you? Because you've got that sort of, when you were talking about the narrative and all of that, it's, there's a lot to writing a book.
There's a lot to writing a book. A lot of it is the vision work, the vision piece. Like, what is your vision of this book? Like, what do you want the reader to feel like when they're done reading this book? Like, who is your reader? Like, who are you inspiring? And I think that if someone works with just an editor, the editor is just going to take whatever that writer puts down on a piece of paper and make it read better, which isn't necessarily the best way to go. Like, you have to do a lot more structural and development and outlining work before you even get to that point, because then you're just putting things down on the page that, as far as I'm concerned, could just end up being something you can't fix what's already broken. Right. And I say that to people when they come to me and say, well, I wrote a draft of a book, like, can you edit it for me? And I'm like, that's not what I do. I'm sure there's many people that would like to fix that for you. But if I haven't touched your product from the very early start, I cannot put my name on it.
Oh.
So it's actually been an interesting thing for me too, to take ownership of my brand as a book coach and to turn away work, which, it's hard to do in this economy sometimes, to like turn away work, but I can't I stand behind that the books that I work on are going to make it to exactly where that author said they wanted to go. If you want to be a New York Times bestseller, I don't have a magic wand, but we'll do everything under the sun. Funds, if you have the funds for it, if you have the time for it, we could do it.
Yeah. Right.
But if someone comes to me and they've already done something for so long on their own, I don't really feel like I'm the person for that.
Right. Yeah, because you're not part of that, step-by-step process. Yeah, definitely. And it's hard to go back as a writer. I mean, I went through this probably with my musicals, the big, writing the book for musicals. So talk about a hard journey. The music for me just came, but writing that book and having to get back into who was this character really, when you're putting actors on it and and a scene's not working, and it's a real challenge on that way, So I think, how you want them to feel is a big deal in going through that process. Well, and that's really good to know, because I understand even more, and our listeners will understand how you help uniquely, and you want to be able to follow someone through the whole process. And that's really fair for you if you're going to put your name on it. My goodness.
Well, also, I think people benefit. I have a client who wrote a fiction book. I do work occasionally with fiction. I love it. It's like so exciting when it happens, because it gets me back to those filmmaking roots.
Right.
And she had like a YA fiction book, and within just like a couple sessions with me, I had come up with like a whole plot line that she hadn't even thought of, like what a perk. And I'm thinking to myself, at least I'm getting paid for that now. Like before, when you did movies, you'd pitch plots and people would just be like, they'd pass, or they'd steal them, or like you'd work so long and so hard for free. Really? Yeah. I mean, that's endemic in that industry.
Yeah. Oh,
and so now, like, I take my plot line, like, I'm getting paid to do that. So I appreciate getting paid for my value. I think we all should be getting paid for our value.
Yeah.
And I needed to get into a place where that was happening in my life.
Yeah. And it's affirming then you're doing, what you're supposed to be doing, and there's value to your work. And that's the exchange there, definitely.
Yeah.
So it's very true. It's nice to be paid.
Yeah. And I like that you have your banner behind you that says the hero inside, because I'm the story inside, right? It's the same thing. Like, who are you championing yourself? Like, are you a hero to yourself? And that's really important. And part of that comes with what's your pay grade.
Exactly. And you have to decide, that's a personal decision too, and what the market will hold, but also, what you feel, we discount our skills sometimes with all of the things, and we discount our experience. And I talk about this a lot, and especially with people at the halftime of life, which is by 2030, that's going to be the biggest segment of our population. You're going to be 50s, 60s. People are not going to quit working, and you better start preparing right now. And there's a big element of our population that's headed toward that area, and to maximize your skills and your experience. And people discount those. I was discounting them in all of my professional music skills, and realizing, wow, how much I had, those transferable concepts. And so those are great. Well, we have some more questions. We can get off on that for a long time, but I have some more questions I want to get on writing a book. And this is a really important one because it really relates to business as a whole, and how an author knows who their reading is, and how I just think this question really relates to identifying your audience and who you are speaking to. So how do you help authors identify who their reader is?
Well, I have a condensed 17-minute talk on my podcast. It was the last show of season 1, and it's called The Bigger Message in the Book. And I talk about just that. I talk about what's called the reader avatar, and I talk about how important, of course, it's an abbreviated version of what I do with private clients, but I take them through a reader avatar. I mean, we talk about like what their age is. We talk about what, how much money they're making. What do they want? What are their dreams? What keeps them up at night? What do they want to solve? What are you solving for them? And I urge them to get really specific. Writers have a very romanticized view sometimes of who they're going to reach. And it's 25 to 70. But it's like, no, not right now. That's great when that happens. Like, that's going to be amazing when that happens. But right now it's more like 37 to 45. I get them really, really specific. Because different generations straddle, like I've noticed certain generations straddle each other. Like I've noticed 38 to like 54, we've all kind of been through the same stuff and we can relate. We're not as far away from each other as we think. But 27 and 55, we're like light years from each other.
Yeah. There's just a different, we've had so much of the, online and everything else. There's just the different technology, period, too. And what they're used to, how they're used to learning, the whole thing. And it's really a different, with all those stages, it really is. And I think as you get really specific with who your book audience is, that's going to really help in your client base and who your whole client base is, and to be able to target them and how to find those people. That's
people get very like distracted, right? They forget that between 38 and 53 is what? Billions of people. They're like, oh, maybe I should go get 9 other age groups. It's like, no, how about you go for the 17 million people that are between 38 and 52? Why don't you work on finding them and let them be a champion for your book? And then maybe they'll give it to their 60-year-old friend, and then she'll give it to a 60. And then if it's a bestseller, well, then a lot more people will read it.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very good advice there. And it's just hard to stay in that, especially I think for the artist mindset. It's
Mhm.
because you want to be able to speak to everyone in some sort of way. And it's a hard thing. And I remember, these comments of, pick a lane and be really specific, and your avatar and all of that. And it's hard. You feel like you're on that freeway sometimes, and you're, but yeah, especially in writing a book and identifying who is actually going to read this. And
Right.
and a lot of times it ends up to speak to you as the author first,
Hmm.
many times,
Hmm. And I
and
think, yeah, and I think readers need to be writers need
mhm.
to be very specific about how many readers they're going to reach
Mm,
based on marketing dollars.
okay.
There's just some hard, cold realities to that.
Yes.
Unless you're planning on doing a very time consuming grassroots campaign,
Mhm. Yes.
or lower your expectations and be very clear. I'm going to sell 1,000 books off the stage, or 2,000 books from the stage, and maybe some follow-up sales next year or something like that. Be really realistic in your expectations, because to be a New York Times bestselling author or a Wall Street Journal bestselling author actually requires marketing money that's
Yes.
substantial.
Yes. Yeah, it really does. It's a promotional tool. And I
Hmm.
know we were going to get to this later, but I'm going to ask this now. Why is asking about the ROI question? Why shouldn't you be asking that when you're actually um, writing the book? And what's the main purpose of writing the book? And in your
Right.
opinion, um,
I think that ROI is a strange. I have a hard time with that question when I'm just getting to know someone, because I look at it as another way to just be resistant and not start the process.
hmm,
So I tell them, I say, I'm not going to give you an ROI on your book right now because there's too many factors. Like, we haven't done like budgets or marketing, or like we don't know what you're going to spend, right? And also, it's very hard to quantify an ROI on what opens up for the writer as possibilities in the process of writing the book. They come up with this great coaching program that ends up being the ROI, or they end up meeting someone that hires them for a position that was unexpected because of now their expertise from writing the book. That should be an ROI. But
yes.
for actual book sales, dollar for dollar, that seems to me, people are like, how am I going to get your feedback? And I'm like, well, number one, by the time you're done with the process, you should feel like you've entered into a whole other sphere of living. That's the ROI,
Mhm.
right? Like, you are a different person from working with me than you were before.
Right.
Then
It's,
everything else should be, it's sort of like when you go into a mastermind program and it's a mastermind about like something untangible, like you're going to have more confidence. It's like, well, what's the ROI on that? And they're charging $45,000 a year.
yes. Yeah. It's really what you put into it, first of all, I think, in that process. And if you're going to get that sort of value out, but I relate books, and you can kind of tell me if this is, in what you had, in line with what you had just said. But I've produced a lot of different music albums, CDs, and a lot of those are promotional tools. I don't make
Right.
money from CD sales as much. I mean, I do with some of the licensed things that I have more, but it's usually it's gotten me large engagements, and it's
Yeah.
gotten me the fact that it's opened doors for me, because I've produced, I've written all these songs, and I've written the musicals, and that has gotten me more than just having the actual product. And I feel books are much the same way. And a lot of times they will open up a door, because what I know about people with books, you send them a book and you're lucky if they read it. You know?
Right, exactly. Like, they have to, I mean, my client Alan Maxwell is a great example. He's done everything one should do. He wrote the book with me for 3 drafts. He was all in from stem to stern. He hired a marketing company. They helped him. We created a great cover and a great campaign. He went to the Wall Street Journal top 10 business books in July. And then he hired a PR person. And then they did PR just in Southern California, but he was on NBC, and this is all during COVID, all during COVID. And now he's on Bruce Marin's Celebrity Speakers. He's one of the members there. He's got a page. It's just a matter of time before he's going to start speaking on those bigger stages and get those fees.
Right, right. but his commitment to doing the marketing, and I've always told people when I even taught music business was, you can do your project, you've got that, there's so much of a budget, but you need to amplify that, 10, 20, 100 times for your,
Right.
because most every record company or even publisher, well, it depends on what publishers will spend too. Usually you have to do a lot of your own promotion, but
Mhm.
the promotion dollars is astronomical. It can really, you really have to have enough to be able to get it out there, to
You have to spend money to make money.
yeah, big
It's
time.
just true. You just
Yeah.
have to spend money to make money. And how much money you spend, I believe, is consummate. This is not brain surgery. How much you spend is what you're going to receive in return.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes with books, especially when it comes with movies. It's with everything. And in the movie business, the hardest part was we never had money for marketing. So we'd spend $1 million on this fabulous film that no one would ever see because we ran out of money to tell anybody about it.
Wow. Yeah. It's hard.
I was like, that's not happening in books in
Yeah.
my world anymore.
Yeah. It's tough you can have even the dollars, but how do you really break through with a
Right.
brand?
Right.
So that's, because you can throw stuff out there, and see how it
Mhm.
works, but what's going to really break through. And that's where identifying your audience and your niche and how important that is at the beginning of the process.
Yes.
So, yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to this whole process, but it's fun. But it's
It
really
is fun. It is fun. It is fun.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. So, okay, I think we covered on how to even start. I think that was such a good question that we covered there. But what are some of the ways that you have seen your clients change personally when writing a book? This is a really good question. You don't have to use specific names, but I think the personal and professional growth in this, what can people expect to happen in their lives writing a book besides, getting stuck sometimes?
Well, my client, Naomi Joseph, calls me a fairy godmother. And I've been called a ride and die, and I've been called all these things. And the reason why is because what they came to do, they're seeing done. And I think that it blows their mind, right? Like my clients, I'd say my client, Malin Svensson, who's the celebrity trainer for Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, she came out with a book about Wake Up Your Body After 50, and it's doing amazingly well. And she's got this whole coaching program, and she's got this. And she came to me and said, I've had the big publisher. I've had that book. I want to be in charge of my book. I'm going to self-publish my book, and I'm going to set up all these things that are going to be, and you just need to make sure, we got to make sure the book sounds good. Can you? And I just see her out there. I'm just like, oh my God, she's doing it. Like she's doing it. Like the book's out and she's selling all these. It's really, so I think just affirmation that what they set out to do when their vision is strong is accomplishable. That's really amazing. And my client, Naomi Joseph, who is a speech pathologist in New York City, she wrote a book about binge eating. I just hooked her up with a traditional publisher. She is actually signed with a traditional publisher out of New York, and her book will be coming out December 2021. Many clients don't care. They're like, I'm going to self-publish. Maybe I'll try. Maybe what? She was like, she was willing to put in the time.
Yeah. And that's a process in itself.
Yeah. And we succeeded in less than 2 months. So
that's really amazing because.
So I'm willing to do whatever. I just need the client to be in the ring with me.
Right. Now, talking about that side of your business, how does one go about, like if they were interested, and how would one go about in even hiring someone like you? And what do they need to have before, even getting to the point of writing? Do they just need to have like a desire for writing a book? Because I talk to people about that all the time, just to say, They said, oh, I've always wanted to write a book, and that sort of thing. But do they, or are they even working on anything? So is that basically the stepping point, or do they need to have, what else? What do they need to have?
The clients that sign with me are all in like within 24 hours that we meet. They are those kind of people. They are like, they might just even have the desire, but it's like, it's strong enough that like, they're like, we're doing this. Like, this is happening now. Yeah. And those clients go with me for a year. So I'm with them for a year. So these are long relationships, which I think is the best equation. I have occasionally groups of people that come together, 2 or 3 people that work together. People do that for a lower price point. They do it because they like to know they're supposed to show up for other people too. Like, they feel responsible. So they show up, and they do that for 6 months, and they get the book out in 6 months. And then I have this program that I'm super over the moon about. I don't know how many times I'll run it, but it's called Own Your Authorship. And it's exactly what we're talking about. It's only $9.97. It's 8 weeks. We actually don't work on the books, but we work on the book idea. We work on the why you're not writing the book. What would hold you back from writing the book? If you wrote a book, what would your book be about? Like, so that's that. All those people you're talking to, they're like, I should really write a book. Yeah. Once they're through that 8 weeks, they're either in,
right,
or they've heard what they know to not be in.
Yes.
And as far as I'm concerned, for $9.97, that saves you a lot of headache. You never have to wonder again if you should write a book when I'm done with you, right? Because you're going to either know or not know.
Yeah, that is really good, because you need to apply the same thing in your business. Right. What should you not do? Because it is, we're pursuing so many areas. And I know this season has been one for me. A lot of it has been playing catch up, because I was so behind on things I had produced, but I hadn't finished. Right. And getting scores out, doing, and writing. I've been working on a new keynote speech, on one that I feel like is very, very important for 2021, and doing the type of work that needs to be done. And I had to say no to a lot of things in my life, of just extra meetings and extra commitments. And it was like, I can only do so much.
Good for you.
And I think in writing a book, it's definitely a commitment, and writing is rewriting as well. I mean, it is just, it's constant. And what you add in being able to go through that journey the whole time, especially with character development, I think that part in developing, because if the character is developed so strongly, to be able to create the feeling, people want to be able to identify, I think, with the character, and I mean, in your experience as a movie producer, screenwriter, what is some of again, this is a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I feel like it's very important as a writer. I think it's interesting, because I can ask you this. I feel like I'm looking at you right now and just asking you, okay, what makes like the most interesting character of, and grabbing, something, is it one that's created so much angst that has to work through that, or the trauma, or usually it's somebody that has to overcome most people. Otherwise they're just, they're
right. Well, the movies are fiction. So we're talking a whole different beat.
That's very true.
Than nonfiction. Nonfiction is you're focused more on a way that you're helping people, like a solution, a concept, like writing a book about trusting, your intuition, or writing a book about, selling from the heart, that kind of material. When you're writing movies, and those characters, often we write the same types of characters again and again and again, like father characters, mother characters, someone that can't seem to get love characters. Writers are notoriously redundant in what they choose to work with. I tend to write about characters who are lost. They're trying to find their identity. They have some kind of addiction. They're like down on their luck. You know, I write about sort of the darker, grittier, edgier kind of characters. And that's my persona completely, like my fiction persona.
Right.
And I say to people, if they're writing and something comes out of them,
Right.
don't judge it.
Right.
Don't judge it.
Right.
Because I guarantee, and if you want to write about something that's kooky, like, and that seems that you want to write about a cactus farmer in Arizona who like sniffs glue, do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would think that fiction would go over, because you still, in nonfiction, you want people to feel and some of those principles and drawing through that. And I think that's an important element. But by being able to, apply some of that even in nonfiction writing, I think it's really important, especially today, because of so many people that are stuck and they're circling. In fact, I'm just coming out. Part of my hero mountain and hero inside is also a roundabout hero, is one that keeps circling in a roundabout. You've got to be able to get out of that. It's a trademark thing that I've done too, with just helping people. How do you get through that? And what are those feelings that you are encountering in all of that? And how do you, what are those steps? And so I think in that nonfiction, in giving those steps to identify some of those feelings, are so very important. And you can add so much of that because of your background. And you could say, okay, so what are you feeling here? What is this character?
Exactly.
What is your client feeling? Yeah. So.
And also when clients write stories that are too long, or scenes that don't have enough dialogue, or there isn't enough description, just because it's nonfiction doesn't mean we need to be bored. So I will definitely go in and say, like, this scene was over like 3 pages ago. Can we get to the point on this faster? Like, we don't need to follow the car to the house and have the door open. So a lot of that I bring in for sure in tightening in the editing.
That's a really great point, because it's one of the hardest things to do as a writer as well, is cut. It is really hard. And having that outside, it's tough. And they call it killing your babies in musicals.
That's right. I call it killing your babies in coaching all the time. And I think, God, that's such a horrible thing to say, but it's true.
It's horrible. The first time I heard that. Yeah. And of course I've written, books as well, and having to think, okay, this is for another book. It's not for this one.
It's for hard. Book 3. It's for book 3. Yeah.
It is really, really tough. It is really tough to do that, as that's why it's so important. And that's my second principle of the roundabout hero, is you have to have that extra perspective. You have to get where you want to go. And it doesn't matter what level you're at. It does not matter. And it costs. It definitely costs. We all have done it and had to invest in ourselves. So it's really important. So, well, how do people get a hold of you? Kind of see. I'll put a couple links, because I do write an article with every sort of podcast episode as well. But how do they get a hold of you and find out a little bit more about you?
Storyinside.com is my website, and there's an email there. There's a phone number. I'm pretty transparent. But there's also a way to sign up for like a discovery call. You can sign on to my newsletter and kind of get to know me. You could listen to my podcast. You should write a book about that. The way I look at it is, I'm on all social media as A Story Inside. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. It's like, if somebody wants to find me, they want me as a book, they can find me. Like, we're in 2020. Like, you can find me, right?
That's great. That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I just felt like this was such an important episode to be at the beginning of our year, where people are getting going, and people may be thinking, I've thought about writing a book. What should I do? And how do I even approach it? And so I'd really like to thank you for being with me today, and with Women at Halftime podcast. And for everyone else, just to make sure you tune in next week, because I am going to talk about what is a roundabout and what is a roundabout hero. So I'm going to be talking about in our next episode. You won't want want to miss that. And so listen, subscribe, and I love when people write reviews. So I would encourage you to do that. Thank you so much. You can always reach me also at womenathalftime.com. Also at goalsforyourlife.com, my new speaker website, and Deborah Johnson Speaker even. But I've got a lot of websites you can also reach me in a lot of different areas. So, and thank you again, Kim, for being with me today. So, and with all of our readers.
It's been great.
So for all of you who are listening, Deborah Johnson, and bye for now, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson signing off.